I remember days they used to laugh at me. Used to show them on my records talking casually. Used to say it was a passion on my path to be. Then they told me that I couldn't, so I had to be. Tell me what they really think about it now. Used to hate it, but I guarantee they're proud. Had to do it just to show them that I could, yeah. Now I finally think I took it where I should, yeah. Had jokes on you and now you're on and laughing. I did a whole lot of winning. Look, it came from a passion. I see a whole lot of knowings. I could see now in public and that may think a lot of things. Man, at least think something, now you the judge. Hey, now tell me where you ended up. Yeah. Look, I bet it was a simple job. Yeah. Look, I went and took a different route. Yeah. Look, that's why my life is different now. Back in my feelings, look, when I wasn't so gifted and I was learning to do this, and all I heard were the critics, and I don't blame you for that shit. Look, I was way out the basis, but I just needed some talent so I could witness the greatness. Oh yeah, you ain't ever think this, no, no, no. Stop me while I started, homie, whoa, whoa, whoa. Now this shit settled, it's go better and better, but I'll always remember, yeah, yeah.
Welcome back to That1 Podcast. It's your boy C-Roc here. We're still in Clearwater with the That1 Tampa Takeover. And I have my man, Dr. Jeffrey Gladden, with us today in studio. What's up, Dr. Jeffrey?
Hey, man. Good to be here.
Doing, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
I know your thumb's hurting you, so I won't squeeze it too much.
Yeah.
He had a little accident with a mountain bike. Tell us what happened with that. Let's get started with that.
Oh, well, yeah, I was riding. You know, it's been cold in Dallas, actually, but I was super excited to ride. So I got out and rode, and the cranks on my pedals are a little too long. So actually I caught one on a something I was going over, and it pitched the bike, and I went down and jammed my thumb. So yeah. Anyway, it'll be.
Did you get an X-ray?
No. It's not broken. It just needs some peptides and a little TLC, a little laser, and a few other.
He knows if it's broken.
We know what to do to fix this. Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah. So mountain biking is something that, besides what you do on a daily basis, that helps you stay in shape, obviously, but it's a hobby of yours. You enjoy it.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's impossible, quite honestly, to get in shape in a gym.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's also impossible to get in shape without going to a gym. So both are required. But what I love is to be outside, right? Yeah. And so, really, when you're going to be in shape, it's really about training your nervous system. It's not about your muscles. And the only way you get that is when you get into, terrain that has variety and terrain that has unexpected things happening, right?
Yeah.
That's how you really train your nervous system.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to be, is a well-trained nervous system.
Yeah, along with balance, stability.
That is balance and stability, exactly. That's agility, fast, agile, strong, quick, balance. We want all those things, right? So if you're not training that, if all you're doing is lifting weights, you're not training that, right? Yep. And the gym is too predictable, right? Yeah. It's always the same motion. You're on the stationary bike, it's always the same motion. You want variety. You want to be challenging that nervous system. So that's how you stay youthful.
So, and what else besides mountain biking do you do besides your main hustle?
I love to run. Yeah. I love to run. I love to mountain bike. I love to snowboard when I get the opportunity. Yeah. Every time I get to the ocean, I'm in it. I'm either body surfing or stand-up paddling and surfing that way. So, but anything, ping pong. I'm not a big golfer or tennis player, but I just love to be in motion. I'm a very kinetic individual, right? So anything that challenges me in that way is super fun. Yeah.
All right, and I want to talk about your haircut, okay, real quick, because we're going to talk about what you do, of course, what makes you that one, but I want to find out some things. So obviously, I don't know how many people know I'm bald. I don't usually not wear a hat, but what did you have as hair? Was it curly, straight? Like, what kind of haircut did you have when you're...
Oh, I've got pictures of myself. We should probably throw one up here, but I don't think we pulled it out to show you. But actually, I always had long hair and a beard. Yeah,
oh, really?
Yeah, long hair and beard. And I started that when I was a junior in medical school, and I probably had that for 20 years.
Really?
As a physician. Yeah. Then my hair was thinning. My mom's dad was bald, so that's the genetic connection, right, through your maternal side. And then my dad was bald too. So anyway, I got to a point where it was like, I'm seeing a couple gray hairs and my hair's getting thin. I think I'll just shave it all off. And I'll tell you, I don't know how it was for you when you cut your hair off, but it's like so liberating. It's like, oh my gosh, right? Yeah. It's so liberating. Like we tend to identify with kind of how we look, and but you shave it all off. It's like, oh no, I don't have to identify with that. Yep. I can have a new look. So,
no hat head.
That's
but
right.
The first part is like, my head was really white when I did it. Back in 2011 is the first time I shaved for good. And it was, I had a white head, tan face. I'm like, I got to fix this.
Right.
So
yeah, we have peptides for that.
Oh, do you really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. How about for gray hair?
We can do that too.
Really?
Yeah.
because I've been putting a little bit of they have this little mascara brush for men.
Yeah.
I didn't tell anybody this. This is the first time I'm telling, but sometimes I'll put just a little bit in there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we'll have to talk about that for sure. Yeah. And then the people around you, when you shaved your head, were they like kind of shocked?
Yeah, they were. You know, you know how it is. Now when people see me, a picture of me with, you know, long hair and a beard, it's like, oh my gosh, you know, you look so much better now.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was like, oh my gosh, what'd you just do?
Right.
So,
yeah, it's so true. It's wild.
Yeah.
All right. So can you tell us about like how you got into the medical profession in the first place? And then did you have this vision of being different than everyone else back in the day? Because standing out's important in your line of work, any business, standing out, being that one. But did you just want to go into medical school and just follow along with that crowd? Or did you know from early on that you wanted to be different and stand out?
You know, I think for me, it was more of an evolution. I think what I was really drawn to was the medical field. And it's a series of steps, of decisions, right? You go to medical school, then you decide, well, what internship and residency are you going to do? Then you decide what fellowship are you going to do, right? So all of those decisions, I didn't have all those decisions made when I entered medical school. And so I kept making decisions that would keep my options open. And I ended up, you know, training in interventional cardiology, which I ended up loving, right?
Which is what? What is that?
So you know, everybody's familiar with a cardiologist, right? It's basically a heart specialist. The difference between an interventionalist and a regular cardiologist is that a regular cardiologist does a lot of diagnostics and prescribes medications. An interventionalist will do procedures, do a heart cath, put a stent in, put a pacemaker in, you know, stop a heart attack while it's happening, that kind of thing. So it's a higher level of care, if you will.
Okay.
So it's more interventional. I loved it because my hands were involved, right? And it was very technical in some respects, and I was extremely good at it. And
so you're a surgeon too.
Yeah, in a way. We didn't cut except to make but we were going through the groin or through the arm and actually manipulating inside the heart to actually fix blockages. Yeah.
So you've been in situations before where somebody could have died just like that
100%.
in a moment.
100%. Yeah. And we've resuscitated a lot of people, and we've lost some people too.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, I mean, it's a high concentration sport, right? Yeah.
So talk about the emotional part of that when you first got into it, and did it eventually wear off where you could be traumatized by that?
You know, I loved it. I really did. And I'll tell you what I loved about it. Like some of my colleagues were going into, you know, psychiatry or ENT or family medicine. But what I loved was I loved kind of being in the throes of the action. Like somebody's coming in, they're trying to die. We're going to try to save them.
They're trying to die.
Right. No, seriously.
Oh,
and so it's, you know, it's that kind of medicine. So I liked it's like, if I'm going to practice medicine, let me be right in the thick of it. Right.
Yeah.
And so that was, you know, I'm a little bit of an adrenaline person. So there's an element of that. The other piece of it though, is that I am eternally curious about everything in medicine, about life in general, for that matter, right? So I'm learning at a rapid pace all the time. And one of the things about interventional work was you were always trying to come up with better solutions for individuals. And I learned so much there about how to do that, which we've transplanted into what I do now. Yep. So it was a wonderful field. Yeah.
But the first time you saw somebody dying, like not died, but dying, and you knew that it was up to you. Do you remember that first time?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I was in Colorado.
Take us through that.
Well, I was actually learning how to do interventional work. It was in my fellowship, and I was placing a catheter into a gentleman's left main coronary artery, and his anatomy was such that as the catheter clicked into place, it dissected the left main coronary artery. So that means that we sort of sheared into the wall of the artery, and it closed down, and he had an immediate heart attack and died on the table in front of us.
Oh my gosh.
You know, talk about traumatizing, right? I mean,
died for good or died?
No, died forever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
We lost him. Right.
Okay.
So, you know, that was really, really difficult. And it takes a lot to sort of come back from that, right? When you know that you had a role in somebody else's passing, right? And I tell you, you want to take stock of your life and what you're doing and why you're doing it. Yeah. And, you know, people are encouraging, you know, you got to get back up on the horse. You know, you're really good at what you do and all this, but it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know. But you get back up on the horse, and what it does is it teaches you to be very methodical and cautious, and to realize that you really need precision. You really need precision. And so I really became highly focused on having more knowledge about the individual. What's their kidney function? What's their anatomy? What's their arteries? What do we know about this person? What's their blood clotting? All this thing. What can we know? The more we can know, the better result I can get for this individual. And so we started using lots of advanced techniques when they first came out that nobody else was using. And it enabled us to actually get better results for people than other people could get. And that same philosophy is what we now do in the longevity space.
I carried over. So how many times did you practice that prior to that incident there?
I had done...
Not necessarily on a live person, but like, obviously, how many reps do you think you put in before you were...
I think actually that happened pretty early on. I think that happened probably in the first 50 cases.
Okay.
So early on, I mean, you're young, you're green,
But that was 50 live cases. But how about like, how many times before that do you practice till you have your first case, real person?
We didn't have, we didn't really do it on cadavers. We didn't really do it on models back then.
Oh, okay.
This was back in the 80s, right? And so you pretty much are practicing on a bench, and you're getting a feel for what's happening, and you're doing some little bit of work, but really you're learning inside of a person.
Jeez. Yeah. Now, being a doctor and in the medical field, and science is a big part of that, where's spirituality coming for you, and how does that, what relationship does that have with what you do?
Well, I left cardiology, right? I mean, I did a lot of stuff in that space, as you know. I built my own heart group. I co-founded a heart hospital, which has become nationally recognized. I've been involved with medical device companies. I'm still on the board of one right now. And so I did a lot of things in that space, and I loved it. But I left all that in 2012. And the reason I left was because I'd gotten sick, and medicine couldn't answer my problems. So when I left, it was a little bit like base jumping into, I don't know what exactly.
Yeah.
But what I took with me was the idea of the science. And what I came to realize was that so many people are suffering with stress. And stress basically gets put into the biological system. I just had a conversation with a client yesterday who was talking to me about, physically, he's doing great. We've gotten him and his wife. They're amazing. I mean, they are like, oh my gosh, we can't believe how good we are. Like our peers can't keep up with us. Our lovemaking is the best it's been in, 20 years. I mean, everything is wonderful. And so we're teaching people how to meditate in our practice as well.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, because we feel like it's so important to teach people how to lower stress. So we're having this really interesting conversation about it. And he's talking about the fact that, he lost $5 million last year in a deal that was illegal, and somebody went to jail.
Yeah.
He didn't, but somebody went to jail, stole $5 million from him. And the stress of that, and then the idea that he was raised to work hard. The first 40 hours is to make your living. The next 40 hours is how you actually get ahead, right? So he's got this work ethic, and he's an entrepreneur, and he has this responsibility. And so the point is that we end up as individuals, we end up identifying with these constructs that we've created, right?
I talk about this all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you identify with that, all of a sudden you're loading things onto your system, right? Like I could come into this podcast and I could be loaded up with preconceptions and identities about who I am, right? Or I can actually choose to release that and say, I'm going to show up as Jeff Gladden.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All the rest of it is gravy, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I'm here as Jeff Gladden talking to C-Roc, right?
Yep.
And when you do that, you free yourself from all the attachment to the outcome, and it enables you to actually be creative and to have fun. And so teaching people to be able to do that, and also teaching people how to meditate, where you go into this mindful state, but you actually disconnect from what's around you and you connect to source energy. Oh my gosh, this is life-giving. Literally life-giving.
Yeah.
So we teach this to people. The life energy circle we have, we have basically in the book, I talk about 4 circles. The first one is life energy because it's so critical. And we go through and we heal many things for people. We do all kinds of stuff. We have a person on our staff that, has a master's degree in psychology, spent years in India, meditating,
awesome.
Very spiritual. And all of our clients, you think, well, not everybody's going to like that. Everybody loves it because everybody's under stress.
Yeah.
So, and it's so big.
Well, that's huge. And I'm glad to hear that. So I want to talk about eustress versus distress.
Yes.
And so stress isn't bad if it's the right stress.
That's right.
Right. We talked about being in the gym or being outside.
That's right.
And had something to do with eustress.
That's right.
Right. So can you talk about the difference between the two?
Sure. So hormetic stress is the eustress.
Okay.
A hormetic stress is essentially something, it's a stress that you put on a system that challenges it enough to come back and get stronger, right?
Right.
And so that's why in the gym, out on the trail, It's why you challenge your brain to solve a puzzle, or you do anything that's sort of has a stress associated with it. It's the chronic stress, of course, that we carry with us, which usually is related to us fabricating something about a future that hasn't happened, or living in reaction to something that happened in the past that we've incorporated into an identity that we carry with us, right? And so when you're able to actually start to free yourself from that and be in this present moment, right?
Yep.
And you're not attached to the outcome, then you can move away from that chronic stress, because chronic stress gets carried in our bodies in so many ways. It's not just cortisol. It's not just abdominal obesity or insulin resistance. You see people with chronic stress, they're hunched over. They're in a posture, right?
Let me straighten up. Let me straighten up now that you're saying that.
Yeah, exactly. We'll both straighten up.
Yeah.
But the point is they carry that stress in their body. And this guy I was talking to yesterday that I mentioned also flies. So he has his own plane. He flies around with his wife. And he's like, I'm really good at compartmentalizing. I know I'm under stress, but when I'm flying, I compartmentalize that stress and I just focus on what I'm doing. And I think I'm really proud of myself for doing that. And I said, that's great. I mean, you got to fly the plane. But here's the deal. That's like taking stress and sweeping it under the rug. That's not getting it out of the house.
Yeah.
Right. And so what we're talking about is, how do you get the stress out of the house so your biology and your psychology and your spirituality is free to actually thrive? And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So I'm 48 in a week or two. But in the last few years, what I've been focusing on is understanding that I have an identity, like you're talking about, and that identity is not attached to what I do. What I do is my vehicles.
That's right.
That vehicle that I'm in slows down, crashes, whatever. It's not going as fast as I want it to. I stop it. I get out of the vehicle. I'm still me.
That's
and I get into another vehicle. And it's all, though, aligned with a certain mission that I have in life.
That's right.
So the vehicles have to align with a mission, but I'm not my vehicles.
That's right.
So
this is a really important insight that you have.
Yeah.
We tend to identify with kind of our job or our profession or our whatever, and then we get attached to the outcome. What you're saying is that you can get into a car and drive it, but if it crashes, you're not attached to either the car or the outcome. You have the ability to still say, oh, I'm still on this mission. Let me find a different way, a better way to actually get there. Right.
Yeah.
So everything becomes a learning process for you. There is no failure in your life.
Right.
And this is massive, because if you get beyond failure, now it's just, oh gosh, what can we learn today?
Yeah.
Right. So you're
play games. Don't take things seriously. Like there's really, even when you're working on someone's heart, it's serious to some people, but really you're playing a game. And
in a way you
are. You're trying to win a game.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you take the seriousness out of things,
that's right.
Not that you want to goof off. I'm not saying that, but
it's not that. I'll tell you what it is. The joy of it, and you're talking about playing, is joy, right?
Yep.
What we would do in the cath lab is I would get the whole team into a flow state, right?
I love this.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody was in a flow state, like this, that, yes, that, boom, boom, boom. And we would finish a case and we would high five and say, no one in the world could have done that case better.
Yeah.
Right? Literally, nobody in the world could have done it better, because we were in flow. Everything was perfect. We used as little dye as possible. We did this, we protected that, we did all this. And so this is the joy that you're talking about.
Yep.
It's a flow state when you're working. It's not playful in a kind of a cavalier sense. It's that focus, but there's joy there too.
Yeah, well, there's a rhythm to it.
That's right.
So I'm an Eagles fan, okay? And the Eagles are playing tomorrow against the Commanders. They're going to beat them.
Okay.
But there's, when things are working, you see there's a rhythm.
That's right.
And so that flow state has a rhythm to it. But when it's off,
That's right.
So how important is assessment with everything that you do? And how often do you assess, whether it's your personal life, relationships, your business?
I think one of the things that happens for a lot of people, and I think this is propagated across, the internet, if you will, is you have a particular symptom. Let's try this solution, right? What I found in interventional cardiology was that someone would come in with a symptom, and what I wanted to do was actually deconstruct that situation. In other words, understand everything I could about them. What were their genetics? What was their life like at home? What was their cholesterol? What was their diet like? What are their labs and their kidney function, heart function? If I understood everything I could about them, right, then I could actually get them a better result. And even in the case, I was using intracoronary ultrasound to look inside the artery from the inside out, not just using regular contrast. So we ended up getting fantastic results for people because we deconstructed the situation before we applied the therapy.
Right.
And this is what's missing. And I think at Gladden Longevity, oh my gosh, we have therapies. We have every therapy you can think of, literally every therapy you can think of. And if we don't have it today, we have access to it. We have IRB approved trials. We do all kinds of research related things, things that you can't do in the United States, we're able to do because we're in Texas. It's a right to try state. We have things under IRB approved trials. I mean, we can, you can never make claims, but we reverse all kinds of things for people. I mean, it's so exciting, right? Mm-hmm. And yet we're not married to any of those things until we actually deconstruct an individual situation and decide, oh, well, this is actually the right thing for you. And it's, it's not only what we give you, it's what we take away. Yeah. It's like, here's what's really hurting you. Let's stop that and let's do this. And now all of a sudden you feel better than you ever did. And that's the beauty of, really knowing somebody before you start actually doing things.
Yeah, it's huge. So timing is everything. And sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah.
Because you're prepared, but you've done the work ahead of time. You get lucky. But how important is the time that we're in right now with the Maha movement and everything that's going on with, longevity, biohacking? It's like this mainstream thing now.
Yeah.
How is, and especially the Maha movement and all that, like, what are your thoughts on that and what's been going through your mind as it's been coming about?
Well, I'm probably more knowledgeable in the longevity and biohacking space, quite honestly. I think what I think is happening is there's really a groundswell now of people understanding that we don't have to age the way we saw our parents and grandparents and peers age, right? And I think that's a wonderful thing. And I think what we want to do in Washington is basically get that message across, because there's a lot of hurdles to actually practicing this kind of medicine. So we're, with the Trump administration, with JFK, if he's confirmed all these kinds of things, we're thinking that we can actually make real progress. I'm going to speak in Washington later this spring.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. On all this thing, on all these topics, right? The point is that I don't think there's been a better time to be alive than today.
Yeah, I agree.
Because we have access to so many technologies, and with AI and with the other things that are happening, we're learning so fast, and we're able to understand an individual so deeply, so quickly. It took me 2.5 years to crack the code on my issues when I had them. Yeah. We can do that in 15 minutes now for an individual if we have the lab tests, right?
Wow.
So it's really phenomenal. And so I believe, and I've started a new company actually. I have Gladden Longevity. I started a new company called Quadrant Longevity, which basically is a platform to bring together the best of longevity people around the globe. Because I believe if we aggregate even what we know today, we've already cracked the code on aging, right? So I think it's super exciting time.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So there's a ton of influencers coming out. You make sure you vet whoever you're listening to. My wife will say to us, we'll be in a conversation or some other people around, and she'll say, yeah, they say this. And I'm always like, who's they?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I told her that I have they coming in today, by the way.
Okay. Okay.
But I give you that much, my belief and faith in it. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of influencers out there. There's a lot of people saying this and saying that. And there's legit people, but even they're going in different directions, and it's like dispersed.
That's right.
Right. So you're trying to bring them all together to concentrate a focus.
That's right.
And collaborate. Right?
The other interesting thing that gets mixed into this is economic incentives, right? So you have people that are promoting this, that, and the other thing, and they're economically tied to it, right?
Yep.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing, except it can cloud what they're saying, because what happens for many influencers is they have your solution. Oh my gosh, if you just listen to them, they have your solution. You just need this, and this, and everything's going to be fine. The problem with that approach is they don't know who you are. They've never deconstructed your situation. They don't know if that's right for you. And quite honestly, what we see is what's good for one person is not necessarily good for the other. So again, I think be suspicious if somebody's like, oh, if you have this symptom, do this. It's really, it's not that short circuit, right?
Yeah.
It's do this symptom. Let's find out why you have this symptom. And now let's do something about it once we truly understand what's going on.
So do you cringe when you're on social and you see people doing that? Like, if you have this, do that.
I don't spend any time on social.
I didn't know if you do that.
I spend zero time on social.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that I'm always learning something new.
Yeah.
Right. Always. And it could be everything from astrophysics to 0-point energy, to the quantum, to meditation, to the latest stem cell.
But isn't there a lot of that on social that you could be looking at, or no?
There is. I mean, I mean, I'll watch some YouTube videos and stuff like that. But I mean, in terms of like Facebook or that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, I'm on social hyper intentionally. Right. I want to study human behavior, but I also, there's a lot to that on social, but I also am looking for the people that I want to connect with and build a network with.
Yeah.
But when I see people saying things that I know aren't true, or they just don't know, I cringe. I'm like, oh man, this poor person. I know, I can see right behind everything.
Yeah.
So I want to take, switch topics here for a second, because we're talking about human beings, right? And I want to have a little fun here, sci-fi.
Okay.
Have you followed anything that of disclosure, or the aliens or UAPs or any of that stuff?
Oh yeah.
Are you interested in that stuff?
Oh, very interested. Yeah.
And by the way, the reason I ask this is because if we have come across an alien, a non-human intelligence, what have you, or biologics, there's going to be a whole nother field of medicine, comparison, 100%. Contrast.
Well, even beyond that, beyond that. And I think
it's crazy that we're talking about this, by the way, because it's like
a few
years ago, like it was all like conspiracy and
that's right,
fiction.
That's right. Do you know Stephen Greer?
I know of him.
Yeah, you know of Stephen Greer.
Yeah.
So he's an MD, and I've seen his documentary, his movie, basically the Lost Century, it's called.
Yeah.
And I haven't talked to him. I was actually going to connect with him, but our schedules didn't match.
Yeah.
But he's very into the whole, alien UFO scenario. And, when you start to look at all the evidence, it's pretty undeniable. And if people think that we're the only things in the universe, that's a little silly, right? So I think that it's all, not everything is true, of course, but I think that what's interesting is that these technologies really exist. And actually, we've reverse engineered a lot of these technologies.
Yeah.
And the reason they're not coming to light is because it's so disruptive to the current economic construct.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm excited about there, and one of the reasons I want to get a hold of Stephen, is because I think we could probably solve most diseases based on tech that comes from civilizations that are generations ahead of us, right? And even though we're different,
mind-blowing,
right? Mind-blowing stuff.
This is wild.
So this is like super fun stuff.
Yeah.
And we don't have access to it today, but my golly, let me go online. If you have access to any of that, we are down to jump in on it, because this is what happens. Quite honestly, what you're experiencing here from me is an individual, and I hope you're like this too, that's married to their questions and not their current answers, right? And so how do we do it better? How do we live young for a lifetime? How do we make 100 the new 30? How do we end up with a 30-year-old body and a 3,000-year-old mind, right? These are the questions we ask. And if those are the questions you're asking, oh my gosh, you're going to find there's answers everywhere.
Yeah. And think about the roadblocks to this and the mud that you have to go through, because it's big pharma, it's energy sector.
Yep.
What else?
It's politics.
Yeah.
And it's also, you've got basically governments, and you throw in a little bit of, religious fervor here and there.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you got a lot of binary thinking. So I'm writing another book on
Well, by the way, what's the first one called?
100 is the new 30.
100 is the new 30. Check that out.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. I also read the entire book. It's on Audible. The new book is on quantum thinking.
Oh, yeah. Let's go.
Right?
I love it.
Yeah, because binary thinking, when you think about binary thinking, look at all the problems in the world. They're all related to binary thinking. Somebody's right and somebody's wrong.
0, 1, 0,
0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, right? So we're going to fight about it because, and when we fight, you're not going to become a 0 and somebody else isn't going to become a 1. So it's this human cycle of, right, which is really the bane of our existence, is actually this binary thinking.
Yeah.
In a quantum computer, as you know, you have a +1, a -1, a 0. You have a sphere of all possibilities.
So that would be, instead of binary, it's 3, but also
no, it's more than 3.
But I was going to say, you can have the alphabet in there.
It's a sphere of all possibilities.
You can put the letters in there too, instead of 0, 1.
You have all the numerical numerations, plus, minus, all the different things in a sphere, right? So it's almost an infinite number of solutions, right? So when you think in a quantum way, you're looking at, again, deconstructing the problem, and then what's the best solution at this time in this space for the people involved? How do we get to that, right?
Fingerprint instead of a binary.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. And now you get that solution. That's a quantum solution, right? And when we transition from binary to quantum thinking, I think the whole planet has the opportunity to really, really blow up in a really positive way.
Where are we? Where do you think we are on that scale?
I think I think there are quantum thinkers on the planet, clearly. I think you're probably one of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. And, a guy like Stephen Greer, there are other people out there. But I think what we find is that a lot of the people that are in power, they get married to the identity of being in power. They get married to the identity of being financially rich, or whatever it is. And when people, their identities sort of shrink into that, they become binary.
Yep.
Right. When you free yourself from that, and now you're free to be,
which is really spiritual.
A spiritual person having a human experience instead of a human person having a spiritual experience. When you really understand that, now it's like, oh, let's go to the quantum, because that's going to be a whole lot more fun.
Yeah.
And that's where real solutions are going to come forward.
It's exciting. It's scary in a way too for some people. I think the more binary you are and the more closed-minded you are, it's scarier.
That's right.
But if you're not and you free yourself, it's like exciting.
It's exciting. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's right.
So the other one thing I want to talk to you about is being a leader in a space, okay? And stepping out and being that one, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you think about to make sure that you maintain stepping out from the crowd?
I think the biggest thing that I can do is, number one, be curious, be eternally curious, and not be married to any solutions that we currently have. I think it's that curiosity that really drives innovation. And I think it's the questions that always drive innovation. When people get married to an answer, they become defensive about it, right?
They attach it to their personality.
They attach it to their personality.
And that's where they take offense.
You don't believe that. You don't think that. You don't think this. Well, this, and
you're coming at me personally.
Exactly. Now it's personal. Now they get defensive, right? So I really think that the path forward is that's how I do it, is by staying eternally curious. And what I find is that most people are not. So we end up being miles ahead of most people, not because we're keeping score. We're trying to bring everybody along. Actually, I'm doing this Gladden Longevity certification course, which is going to be a year-long course that we're going to launch here shortly. And I'm super excited about it, to train other practitioners to think and actually take action the way that we do, because I want to, I'm on a mission to actually solve aging for the planet, right? And I want to help other people do that too. Yeah. Yeah.
And how important, as we wind down here, how important is it for us leaders to be living demonstrations of what we're talking about 100%. Versus just talking all the time?
100%. Yeah. 100%. And nobody's perfect, right?
Yeah, of course.
That being said, I live it every day. Right. Yeah. I mean, I was born in 1954, right? So in February of 1954. So I've got a birthday coming up, but I wake up 27 every day. And I'm 27 right now. I know you said you're in the 40s. Well, I'm thinking, well, I'm younger than he is.
Yeah. So I was talking about my chronological age, Dr. Gladden.
That's right.
I'm like 12. My maturity and everything. I'm older. So. No, but so have you had that tested to see what you're...
we're all a mosaic of many biological ages.
Okay.
Right? You have a brain age, a heart age, a kidney age, telomere.
But is there one what's
no, there's not one.
No, okay.
No, there's not one.
Okay.
Everybody wants to say, oh, I'm 5 years younger than so I'm good, right?
Yeah.
But that's it's delusional, quite honestly. You really want to understand, again, the whole picture, right? What's the mosaic of all of my ages, right? And what's my weakest link? Because that's where we need to focus.
Yeah. All right. We're winding down here. Where can people go deeper with you to check out the certification? Wherever you want to send them.
Yeah. So if you go to the Gladden Longevity.com website, you can get access to the book. You can get access to the podcast, the Gladden Longevity Podcast. The course will be there. If you're interested to talk to us as a practitioner, you can reach out there. If you're interested to talk to us as a client, you can talk to us there as well. So that would be the place to go.
Awesome. Yep. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to give you a fist bump, protect the thumb.
Thumb will be better.
I appreciate you. You know, it's important to speak about relationships, because you flew in here today. And I gave you a call or text, shot you a text. Hey, I'm going to be in Clearwater, Tampa. Can you shoot over? You're like, absolutely. And you made it happen. And it just means the world to me.
Oh, yeah.
That Thank obviously you get something out of this too. But for me, it feels like you're giving. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, this is how the world turns, right? When we try to make everybody better.
Yeah. Love it. All right, guys, we're wrapping up here. Clearwater, shout out to Jet and his team at Evotion Studios. Shout out to the Lollies, biohackyourself.com. Appreciate them for all the connections they've given me. And we'll be back next time. Make sure you subscribe, tell your friends, family, coworkers about us, and check us out also besides your favorite podcast platform on the Motivation Success Network with Dennis Postman and his team. And until next time, it's your boy C-Roc signing off. Be that one.